Yana Bhaskar and all of you have given me a wonderful opportunity to share this love story and journey towards Sai. I'm a little quirky, so I'm going to really make this fun because Swami has shown me that through laughter, through caring, through love, more love, it begins to help us realize that we're a spiritual being having a human experience. But since I am ADD, I forgot one thing. I offer my loving pranams at the lotus feet of my dear Lord Satya Sai Baba. Vijay's used to this. He said, okay, you always go backwards. But I got it out. Anyway, I think I'm going to give you a little background because Aaron's really right. When I started this journey, my life was party, eating, disco dancing, going to rock concerts, and being just a socialite. My journey started in 1974, and one of my fraternity brothers came out to San Francisco and convinced me to come back to Atlanta to get involved in real estate, and I accepted. And in that office, one of the principals was Cosby Powell. Now, to start this journey, it was really a delight how I first met Cosby Powell. I guess I'd been there for maybe 3 or 4 days, and I had some questions about some of the real estate transactions that we were going to do. So I walked into the back where the principal offices were, and I saw the door cracked. So I figured, well, I'll go in here. If it's not my partner's office, I'll just find out who's there. So I walk in the door, and I went, whoa, here is Cosby, hair down to here, with his arms outstretched, healing a dead plant. And I said, I have never been to a real estate office where this is done. And I said, whatever he's doing, I'm going to get out of here. So I started backing out, and I guess Cosby felt my presence, and he said, no, you must be the guy from San Francisco. Come on in. I said, no, I really don't want to. I said, whatever you're doing, I said, I've never seen anybody in a real estate office trying to heal a dead plant. You can just buy one at Costco for nothing. But he wanted to do it the hard way. I've got 40 years of experiences that I'm going to share with you, but not all of them. So I want to skip over some of the mundane stuff, but when I met Cosby, I just like to say one thing, that Swami puts people in our lives that they know what's coming. I didn't, but Swami knew. And Cosby was my brother, my friend, and really the darkest hours that I was to go through over the next 8 years, he was always there by my side. And I'll always love you. The interesting part, and I'm going to skip over this rather quickly to give you some background, because really I had no spiritual inclinations whatever. Now, I was brought up in a Catholic family, Puerto Rican, Italian, and we went to church, and the devotion to Jesus was very deeply embedded within me. And I just didn't agree with the dogma of the church, so I basically left the church when I was about 18 or 19 years old. So from there, but my morality and my ethics and being an honorable person that was given to me by my family, that was intact. But I never really thought about God being in my life and going through this process of transformation. So over the next 4 years, um, Cosby had started, as he mentioned, Foundation of Truth, and there I began to immerse myself in classes in um, uh, meditation, yoga, Christ consciousness, Yogananda, studied there, Muktananda, and TM for a while. And one day Cosby comes to me and he says, Tom, I've got great news. And I said, well, I hope you bought some more land because I'm almost broke and I need some product to sell. He said, better than that. I said, really? What is it? He said, I've read a couple of books and I have found him. And I said, really? And who might that be? I believe him to be an incarnation of Christ. And the first thought in my head was, why do I attract these crazy people in my life? I just want to make a good living. I want to be kind and judicious. And I don't want to have material values. I want to have spiritual values. And he, really? Give me a break. And then he shows me a picture of Swami. And I went, he's got an afro, wearing an orange gown, and he looks like Jimi Hendrix. I'm glad. Hey, you youngsters, you know, Jimi Hendrix is a long time ago. He said, well, I'm going to India. I went, great. When are you coming back? He said, about 3 weeks. I went, okay. But he was my boss, so I had to, toe the line. So I said, okay, see ya. He comes back. Now, this took me by surprise. There were two incidents that happened. One was when he was healing the plant, it did resurrect. I went, whoa. But also, I had a dislocated shoulder that whenever I put it in this position would come out. And 2 years later, there was a healer that came. And when I mean by healer, there were spiritual people that actually acted as conduits and would really say, get in a space of meditation, in a prayerful space, and move out of the way. And if it's God's will, the energy will flow through that person. So he's basically acting as a conduit. They never took credit in saying they were healed. And I had my shoulder healed. I'm not going to go into that because I really want to cover some funny stories. And Swami has given me this really quirky personality where I just like to smile a lot and laugh. And it was a very disarming way to hide my insecurities and fears, because I was a very, very fearful person. And over the next 7 or 8 years, Swami looked at me and said, rather than fixing this house, let's just tear it down and start from scratch. And that's about the time that I came into real estate. It's kind of like running toward an elevator, and you get in, you're the last person in the elevator and go, I made it, and the cable snaps. So there I was, independently poor. And Swami just started, not so much at that time, Swami, but by the time we got to Swami, and Cosby came back from India, he had this real deep glow about him. Cosby's pretty laid back, but very intense. And when he talked about Swami, his eyes would get glassy, and he had this conviction. So he said, do you see this white powder? I went, yes, I do. Okay, here it comes. He said, this white powder is called vibhuti. It's got healing power. And I went, right. Oh, this guy's way out there. You got to remember, I'm Catholic. You know, we're taught not to believe anything but what the Catholic Church says. So I'd been programmed for about 19, well, at the time I was 32 at the time. And he said, and Cosby had this wart on the side of his nose. And he said, I'm going to put this vibooty on my nose, and I'm going to heal it. And I went, right. 4 days later, that wart on his nose started turning gray and bleeding. I said, that's great. Now you got it infected, they're going to have to cut off your nose. Now I want to see you make some sales presentations with no nose on your face. That'll be a charming for people to look, oh, what a unique looking guy. And he started laughing, and we had this communication and this bond that was just hilarious. Over the next 4 years before I went to India, he kept on pumping me like, okay, you got to go see Swami. I said, Cosby, you're a principal. You've got cash flow. You've got money in the bank. I'm independently poor. I can barely make my ends meet. He says, what are you talking about? We got 100 acres down South Fulton. I said, you mean that property you just bought? He said, yeah. That place looks like it's been napalmed. What he had done is they bought this beautiful piece of property and they basically cut the pulpwood out of the trees. So a lot of the trees in the front of the property were just laying down all over the place from the heavy equipment coming back and forth. And I said, that'll never sell. And he says, well, there's your miracle. Ask Swami to sell it for you. And I went, you know, that's not funny. I'm over here starving to death and you're telling me to ask Swami. I sold the property within a year. That was 100 acres. I had enough money to go to India for 2 months, paid 2 months worth of bills, and I don't want to go into the details, but some of the miracles were just amazing. I went, oh gosh. So we put our first group together, and there was a minister by the name of Haynes Kreider and some ladies and a few other people. I can't remember, because Aaron went on the second, I think that Aaron, third trip, Cosby? I think it was the third trip. But anyway, Haynes Kreider and I hit it off. He was a minister, and he and I had similar backgrounds. So we were very excited to see if Sai Baba was really God. And again, I felt that Swami was divine. I felt like he was like a holy man, but I didn't know that he was God, and I just couldn't give that up. I just, you know, gosh, he floats, and he's sweet, and he's so kind, and I feel this loving nature, but I don't know if he's God. And I was talking to Haynes about it. He said, I don't either. I said, I hear these people talking about bliss and epiphany and just going into a swoon when Swami walks. And I said, I haven't felt a thing. So we're out in the village buying fruit, and the music goes on. And I went, oh my gosh, Swami's coming out for darshan. I said, Haynes, let's go. So we got, and just as we sat down, Swami was already taking letters and talking to people. And then he looked in our direction, didn't look at me. All of a sudden, I feel this burst of bliss in my heart. And I just had a catharsis. The poor Indian man next to me said, oh, I didn't do anything. These Westerners, you know, pay attention to Swami over here crying like a baby. And for about 15 to 20 seconds, I was just really weeping. And it was like my physical body had never felt that kind of joy and didn't know what to do with all this wonderful sweetness and kindness and love that was exploding. So Haynes Kreider was a good old country boy, you know. Country boys don't cry, I'll tell you that right now. You know, that's for women and children. But men don't cry. He was sobbing. So I looked at him, I said, hey, are you okay? He said, Tom, I ain't never been loved like this in my whole life. He must be God. And that was that was the beginning, because then I went, okay, Swami's God. And then we went, okay, I can make a long story longer. We'll be here possibly before midnight. I should be done. Gita, I just don't have your discipline. But anyway, I want to move fast forward because we had some, after Cosby's experience, and Cosby's very aggressive. He started contacting Sam Sandwise, Isaac Tigert and stuff. We started going here. You got, pack up your bags, we're going. Where are we going? Doesn't matter, come on. And we go up and go to these conferences. And here we are in the men's dormitory. You can really appreciate this. Have Jack Hislop there, and Sam Sandwise is there, and we're hanging out on the couch listening to Swami stories. So, oh my gosh. And then Sam Sandwise said something that just stuck with me. He said, you know, Swami says, if you want to get close to him, be humble, be harmless, be upright, forbearing, have no pretense, and be free from the bondage of desire. And I said, I can do the humble part. You know, I'm broke, I can't pay my bills. I certainly do not have anything to be arrogant about, I'll tell you that. And then I thought about be harmless. Ooh, when people don't treat me right, I don't feel exactly harmless. Be upright all the time, every day, no matter what happens. It's another toughie. Be free from the bondage of desire. Whoa, 0. I can't even eat one ice cream. I have to have 3. Don't even talk about chocolate. Let's not even go there. And over, that kept on resonating. Be humble, be harmless, be upright, forbearing. Have no pretense, and be free from the bondage of desire. And then I started realizing that overcoming, we know, overcoming all these vasanas was just a real challenge. And, but it was wonderful to be in that environment. And I can feel when they would tell these stories, it was just so engaging, and my heart was just, I'd never felt like that. And the seva part was already beginning to say, Swami wanted us to do seva and talked about seva. And Cosby says, Tom, you've got to go to India. And I said, okay. I'm going to go to India again. So I went to India again. Then the next trip, Wayner Crowder says, I want to go to India. And business had been pretty good. It was during the summer. We always went during the winter because real estate is very slow during the winter. And so Wayner says, I'm going to go. I said, Wayner, I'm going to go. And Cosby said, okay, I'll go too. So we said, all right, let's go. And he said, well, I just know I'm going to get an interview. And I went, Wayner, do yourself a favor. The only one that knows that you're going to get an interview is Swami. And unless he gave you a phone call, go there, feel his bliss. There's no television, there's no radio. And you start out the day with meditation, then Omkar, then after Omkar it's Darshan, then Bhajan, then they have these talks. Kasturi, his fingers are about this long, and the guy's magnificent, and he sounds like a poet. And it's just beauty itself when he speaks. You'll start weeping for no reason at all, just the way he expresses himself and his love for Swami. I said, it's great, don't worry about I know I'm going to get an interview. I went, okay, I warned you. And we went to the Taj Mahal on the way, and I just want you to know, I did a no-no. When the people weren't looking, I did 3 ohms inside the chamber, and I never got caught. Thank you, Swami. So, when I have a little blurb here. Come on, Swami. We were at the ashram for about maybe 8 days. And this one morning, Wayner and Cosby sat on the end, and I was on the other end. And all of a sudden, Wayner gets up and starts walking to the Mandir, and I went, what is he doing? You can't do that. I said, Wayner, what are you doing? He said, I don't know about you, but I'm going in for my first interview. And I went, yes, that means me. I'm going to go in with Cosby. Of course, Cosby had been to several interviews already, so I said, I'm going for my first interview. And then my mind starts saying, you know, you haven't really been that good. Swami told Wayner that he was going to give him an interview, and you're all boo-hooing it, don't believe this, don't believe that, don't the other. And then you get with your friends and talking about football, baseball, basketball. You know, what kind of sadhana is that? By the time I got to the Mandir, I was frightened that Swami was going to send me back. I said, my self-esteem isn't even this big. If they send me back, I can see the Indian people saying, look at these people, these Westerners, they come here to see Swami and have no respect. They just walk up to the Mandir, Swami catches them and throws them back out as if he didn't know. And by the time I got there, my mouth was dry. If I would have had a spit at that, excuse me, ladies, if I would have had to spit at that time, it would have been a cotton ball about this big. I broke out into a cold sweat, and I saw these two twin. You knew that they had never missed a meal. I mean, they were big. So I went in and I squeezed in between them, and I tried to make myself as small. Look at my mind. Swami's not going to know that I'm on the Mandir. So he squeezes in, and I said, okay. And they're looking at me like, what is your problem? Why are you sneaking in between me and my brother? And they're looking at me like I'm some foreigner, and I went, well, I'm a foreigner. And here comes this wonderful, sweet Swami. And he comes up and he sees people. How are you? When did you come? Very happy. You know, then he took a letter and talked to the other. And then he looks at my direction and he goes, who is he? And I went, I'm dead. Who's going to send me? Oh, how humiliating. Oh, I'll never live through this. And then, to make it worse, he doesn't even look at me. He looks at the other guy. He said, who is he? I said, Swami. By that time, everybody at the Mandir goes, uh-oh. Looks like somebody's going to get shipped out. And I went, oh, Swami. And then Wayner turns around, and Swami says, oh, you're with him. Go. Let me tell you, that's like being sentenced to prison, and I said, oh, I'm sorry, wrong person, you can go free. But the next moment, I have done a lot of things to embarrass myself, but you know what? I'm used to it. I don't get embarrassed anymore. I started walking to the Mandir, and then in my mind, these sweet words in my head, because it isn't the way I talk to me, said, I know everything you've ever done. I know everything that you've ever said. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is what you do with me when you cross that threshold. Well, I got up to the threshold. What do? I have a catharsis right there in front of Swami. And Swami looks at me like, would you please lighten up? And he said, go. And another miracle. I'm sobbing. And he said, go. And I went, okay. It was gone. It was gone. Everything was gone. Then, from 33, I was 4 years old again. I'm going to see Daddy. Da-da. And I was just in bliss, and I sat down, and Swami's chair was here. Somebody was sitting here. I don't know if it was Cosby or not, and then I was sitting here. And there was a Malaysian group of ladies that were sitting here. And it was their first trip. So Swami being, to be that close with him. He was materializing vibhuti for the ladies. How are you? And one lady, he made earrings. And I went, oh, wow, that's cool. And did all of that. And then he sat down. And then he looked at this Malaysian lady and he said, "Ah, you're a very good devotee. Every morning you get fresh flowers. And you put the flower, and naming the flowers, he puts them, lined them up like that, and then you make a garland, and you put it over this picture, and then you do this and that." And this lady, unlike me, this lady's got these bhakti tears that are rolling down her face as if she was experiencing the Lord himself saying, "Now I'm letting you know that I know everything." And then he stands up, and I'm right there, and I'm looking up, and his hand's here, and I went, "Whoa, this is going to be cool." And this crystal japamala falls out of his hand. He catches it with the other hand. As soon as he does that, my ego says, "I saw it, but I don't believe it." And I went, oh, what an adversary. What an adversary. How diligent you have to be careful, because that ego can just, in a second, diffuse your bhakti, diffuse your kindness, your love. In one flash of a second, I went, wow. Well, take a hike. And then he calls me into the interview room, and he's talking to Cosby. Cosby said, "Well, Swami, how you been?" "Oh, pretty good, good. Everything good with you?" Yeah, no. Take a couple of pictures here, a couple of pictures there. Everything's good." And I'm sitting, wow, that's great. And then he looked at me and he said, "How's your business?" And to me, I felt rich. I had two weeks where I just, business was good. I'm there in Prashanti, and I'm there with Cosby and Wayner and stuff like that. So I felt that everything was fine. I said, "Oh, my business is fine, Swami." And Swami says, "Business is not fine. Up and down, mostly down. You have no faith in God, you have no faith in yourself." And I went, wow, you went through my life pretty quick there. Can I get dressed now? And then, like a child, like the sweetness, and with this love like Gita's talking about, he just looked at me and he said, "Business will get better, I will bless," and smacks me on the face. Oh, finally, I don't have to live through fear anymore. I don't have to live with doubts anymore. Swami's going to take care of me. And the next story, I really didn't want to tell the story, but the lesson that I learned from this story is just very important. It's a personal thing, so I'm going to brush over the kind of the business part. When I got back, I felt like, okay, Swami's handling my business. I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to be forthright, and I'm going to be just like when Gita was talking about, boy, when you're a Sai devotee, you'd better do right. You better keep P's and Q's and W's and X's and Y's. You better have those straight in line, because people will judge you. Oh, you're a Sai devotee and you do this and this and this and this? Boy, aren't you a great representative? So I wanted to make sure that everything was in fact, especially my reputation. My reputation was very important. Who are you? I am my reputation. Who are you? The people that I associate with. Be humble, be harmless, be upright, forbearing. Have no pretense, and be free from the bondage of desire. Kept on whirling in my mind. And do your duty, do your duty. Work is worship. So I never thought about the money. I thought about how I can serve. And he was pumping that in my every day. So I'm surveying the business partners came up, and I was selling a large tract of land, which we realized at one point that we had to develop. And I had to get this gentleman, as I was surveying the property, this gentleman comes up and he says, "By the way, I'm a builder. Are you planning on building?" And I said, "Yes." And he says, "Great. Well, I have subcontractors, and I can build the homes for you, and I can make a presentation to you and your people, and we can build a business and start a new business." And I said, "Thank you, Swami." Little did I know. So to fast forward, by the time we were ready to close on the first series of houses, liens started propping up on all the houses. And this guy, what he had done is he gave the contractors, we'd write him a check for all of the expenses for the contractors. He would take half of the money, give it to them to keep them working, and then take the rest of the money and start building houses elsewhere. And I went, so my business partner said, "Did you check this guy out?" And I said, "Of course, I gave you the information. He's associated with a very well-known builder there." Anyway, we had to take him to court to let to do an announcement that you've got to beware of this individual. So we had to go to court. Boy, and I promised myself that I never want to go through that again. And also, I was very queasy because how am I going to be a Sai devotee? Because I was bitter. I gave this guy an opportunity, and I was bitter, and I couldn't give it to Swami. I said, he ruined my reputation. I mean, how am I going to be a Sai devotee? And I just, for weeks, maybe not weeks, but over a period of 2 weeks, I just couldn't give it up. And one night in meditation, I was praying to Swami, and I had kind of like a lucid dream meditation where there was a room, and I was prompted to go up to the room. When I went up to the room, I saw Swami sitting there, and I went, "Oh, Swami, please take this away from me. I just can't get over it. The guy ruined my reputation." And then when I crossed the threshold, the builder was there. And I went, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing here?" And Swami looked at me like, "You have a decision to make. Either forgive him or hold him accountable." I held him accountable. And I'd wake up from the meditation. This went on for several days, about 8 or 9 days, and it was just killing me inside. I said, "I can't give it up, Swami. And then on the final one, I came in and I said, "This is hurting me. I've got to forgive him for my sake, not for his sake. I've got to do it for me. I've got to let go, you know." And so I went up to him in the vision. I went up to him, and as I went up to him, he looked up and he said, "Tom, I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry." And I said, "What's done is done. But I forgive you. I want to get this behind us, and I want to move on." When I put my arms around him to forgive him, Swami got up out of his chair and started materializing vibhuti over both of us. And then in my mind, it was as if Swami said, "If you can forgive him, you can forgive anybody. And there is no success in life unless you have forgiveness. The burden of harboring, the burden of ego will drag you down, and you'll never rise above it unless you give it to me. You have to give everything to me. If you give everything to me, the only thing that'll be left is love, and that's what you are." And I went, whew. And 3 days later, I went down to the subdivision, and the man was sitting in his car, and I went up to the car, and I said, I put my hand on his arm. He had his arm on his wheel. And I said, "John." And he turned around and he said, the exact same words as in the meditation. He said, "Tom, I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry." And I said, "You know, John, we'll both learn from this. God bless you and your family, but I hope you do well." And it was a very, very important lesson, because when other things like that happen to me in the future, I was able to let it go. And so many times feelings are very funny here, because feelings are, I want to make sure I don't run out of time. Okay. Feelings are very important, because sometimes we pretend that we've forgiven somebody and we haven't. And it's very important for us to really let that go, and to harbor ill will, and to gossip, oh my gosh, and all those things. And the next, I'm sorry. Gosh, I'm almost done. Ah, it was the 85th birthday, and they had a world conference. And I think it's important for many of us, and I guess I know my brothers and sisters, almost everybody's an engineer. I can barely type. If it wasn't for Vijay, I wouldn't get anything done. I'm always calling him and asking him, Vijay, how do you do this? He says, wait a minute, I'll send this 3-year-old. He knows how to do it. He'll help you. At the 85th birthday, that was when Goldstein made his announcement. And Goldstein said, Swami wants all the centers throughout the United States and throughout Europe or whatever, you have to emphasize seva. You've got to do seva. And I was doing okay, but I was working 7 days a week, 10, 11-hour days, and I got depressed. And I said, gosh, Wayne, I just don't have the time. And he said, well, if Swami said it, you've got to do it. I said, oh, you're a big help. There was a fellow from the Netherlands that over the years, from going to Prashanti, he became a very dear friend. His name was Ulf. So I said, Ulf, I'm hurting here. He said, why? He said, wasn't that a great talk by Goldstein? I said, yeah, that's the problem. I said, I don't have time to do seva. I said, Swami, you came to the right guy. As a matter of fact, when I came from back home, one of the fellows there had the same situation, and God, now I don't know, this part I'm shaky on, and I was looking at my diary, and I left that out. So I don't know whether Swami told him that directly, or someone had told him, if you do your seva, work will improve. So he says, when he started doing that, he was working the same way. He started doing seva, and his business automatically increased. And I can honestly say that I wasn't that evolved. I bartered with Baba. Baba, I'll do seva, but you've got to improve my business. And he did. And the more seva, and this one story this taught me about seva, because I didn't know what kind of seva to do. We would feed the homeless with Nagesh, and that was a given. But I felt like I needed to do something on my own. So I went to a nursing home, and I said, can you use any volunteers? He says, gosh, we don't have male volunteers. I said, well, that's what I are. And she says, well, there is a gentleman here who's partially blind, but nobody comes and visit him. And he loves baseball. And I said, well, you've come to the right place, because I'm a diehard Braves fan. So he and I hit it off. And being around him, I could feel Swami inside. See, your love is growing. You don't sing that song you sing in the morning. It's all about me. Yes, it's all about me. You're starting to really begin to feel that others and what they're going through and their sadness or whatever it is, you're bringing joy to this man. And then I even took him out to dinner. And, because it's to get somebody out of a nursing home, but anyway, they let me do it. And that dinner, lunch. So I took him out and I said, well, what do you want to eat? He said, well, I haven't eaten Italian food in about 10 years. And I said, well, you've come to the right place. I'm Italian. So I took him to this Italian restaurant, and he said, Tom, can I ask you something? I said, sure, John, what is it? He said, how come you always come in and visit me? And I went, I'm sorry, like he just says, I'm sorry, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? And I said, John, anytime I come to see you, you always see me. You're always my friend. Some of my other friends, I said, hey, Stan, I need to talk to you. How you been? Well, I'm busy this week. How about next week? Or whatever. But you always make yourself available to me. And he said, well, it's not like I'm going anywhere. I said, that's a very good point. But I still consider you my friend, and I just don't take anybody to this Italian restaurant unless I really like them. And Swami showed me that I was becoming a good human being. And that feeling that we get from becoming a good human being, oh my gosh. Even friends of mine, when they came in, and this one friend of mine said, You're a developer? I said, where have you been? I've come to see you in San Francisco several times. I've been a developer now for 10 years. He said, Tom, you're just not that bright. And I said, well, I didn't realize how perceptive you were. You are just a born into it. You should give readings. You're really good. You know, is that supposed to hurt my feelings? You've only known me for 25 years. And okay, Swami just said, cut it out, let's go. How are we doing? 5 minutes? 10. Oh, okay, thank you. Whew. Now I've got some funny stories. They're all about Prashanti. And one is very, very, very sweet. Oh, one is sweet. Let's see which one I'm going to do. The first one is Swami, as Gita knows, he's got a great sense of humor. And in the morning, my morning rituals, I wake up about 1 o'clock, do Gayatri, or I do at least mala, maybe 2 malas of Gayatri, and then I go to Omkar, and then from Omkar, then we have Suprabhatam and Suprabhatam, then we wait for Swami to come out for darshan. Great routine. And in the line, while we're waiting outside, before we're inside, this one guy was, and I mean just spraying everybody around him. Swami, thank you. I got it. I ain't getting I do not want to get sick. The guy has never heard of a handkerchief. And he likes to spread the word. So I was watching, and I was listening for him in the mandir, you know, and get closer, get closer, get closer. I said, if I get any closer, my bones are going to snap. So then afterwards, I see him sitting down, so I purposely let the people go in front so I could sit behind him. And so he's right there. Let me do it this way. He's right there. And he goes, really? I mean, really? I'm trying to meditate and you sprayed me like you were an arpege bottle. So then, while I was in meditating, I used to have a towel that I would put on my seat, so I put it over my head. When I came out of meditation, it was soaking wet. And the next one is a beautiful, only in India. Only in India. It's festival time. Let's go out into the sun and wait for Swami for maybe 12 or 13 hours. And you're being a Westerner, sitting in the lotus position is no problem. You know, my back is aching, my legs are hurting, and then the Sevadals are looking like, I'm watching you, you Westerner. You put both of those legs out, you're going to jail. I'm going to watch him. So I had a couple of buddies in line that had known me, so I was able to stretch one leg at a time. So I'm sitting behind the VIP section. So right before Swami comes out, you know, they open it up for the other people. Well, in comes this entourage of people over there, and this guy sits in my lap. Really? I mean, my back is hurting, my legs are hurting. I've been out there for 3.5 hours waiting for the Lord to come out, and this guy sits in my lap. And then I hear this voice, if it was your son, wouldn't you allow your son to sit in your lap? And I said, come on, Swami. Huh? Yes, Swami, I would. But he's my son. What if Tommy or Cosby or Wayner, they want to sit in your lap? Wouldn't you allow them to sit in your lap? You're really pushing it. I said, sure, Swami. Isn't he your brother? We are all brothers in one. I said, yes, Swami. So I tapped the guy on the shoulder sarcastically and I said, excuse me, are you comfy? And he says, yes, very happy. Well, he took me by such surprise, I just started laughing. I started laughing. This rush of love just comes exploding out of my body. My legs I felt like Fred Astaire. Let me get back to the mic, I'm not that good. And it was just like, oh my God. Everything went away, the backache, the legs, and Swami's saying, see love, what love does? You don't concentrate on the body. Don't let the ego keep saying, oh, my legs are hurting, my back is hurting, when is he going to come out? I've been waiting here for 3 hours. Oh, Lord, please. Love destroys all of that nonsense. That's all in your mind. And I went, oh, thank you, Swami.